the real world, a global community where like-minded individuals work toward achieving their personal goals. Every member receives advanced training and mentoring from our team of experienced industry specialists. Develop essential business skills with the help of our coaches through our online comprehensive education system. Join now. Real Prosperity Financial Freedom Formula. Discover how to become financially free so you don't have to depend on your business, a job, the government, a partner, or anyone else for money. Scan code for the Financial Freedom Formula. 4BK Forbidden Knowledge Shop. Forbidden Knowledge Tours and Workshops. Embark on a journey of discovery with Forbidden Knowledge Tours and Workshops, where history, science, and spirituality merge to unlock the secrets of the universe. Our immersive experiences take you beyond the mainstream narrative, exploring ancient civilizations, consciousness expansion, biohacking, UFO phenomena, and the art of manifestation. Esoteric Store, featuring new esoteric and biohack items. It's a movement, a portal to ancient wisdom, higher vibrations, and deep truths. Awakening minds and expanding consciousness. Scan code to shop now. AI Genius Club. Revolutionary suite of 24 AI-powered apps is designed to automate, optimize, and elevate your success. Whether you're crafting visuals, creating engaging funnels, or generating personalized content, our platform empowers you to excel with ease and precision. Scan code to create magic. Event Raptor, the #1 solution for automating your sales. Attract, nurture, and convert with your ultimate coaching client attraction system. Everything you need to grow your audience, your authority and influence, your sales. Scan to start your automation.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Pain Point Podcast, and I'm your hostess with the mostest, Nicole. I've got a great person here that I want to bring forward, but before we get to that, on the Pain Point Podcast, go ahead and check out the sponsors, support the sponsors. They support the show. In order to bring the show live to you for free, as we do several times a week, and we're bringing some more value to you, go ahead and support those sponsors. And this is how we can give those great tips and tricks without you having to throw a penny out there. So let's get right into it. My guest today is Jessper. And Jessper, welcome to the show.
Nicole, thank you for having me. Excited to be with you today.
It is good. We've had a conversation before, and we're going to continue this great conversation with the audience because it's best for them to really think about what goes on in business behind the scenes. What in business will help me? What tips and tricks do you have to bring the audience? And what we're going to start with is, before we get into it, is you're going to bring some solutions to business, right? You're going to solve some pain points for larger businesses in how to work with their HR. And we're going to unpack a couple of those solutions. But before we get deep into it, would you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience and tell them a little bit about you?
Yes, absolutely. And I'd like to share a story. And the story starts with a memory. Now, I don't remember the exact memory, but it's a memory that my mother shared with me a few years ago. And she told me that as I was growing up at a very young age, I approached her one day and I said, "Mom, when I grow up, I want to be a leader. Mom, when I grow up, I want to be a leader." Now, at that age, I don't remember when it was. It could have been 5 or 6. But for someone to look up to leadership at that age, such a very complex topic. At that age, I might as well have said, "Mom, when I grow up, I want to study macroeconomics." Such a complex topic to consider. But I realized growing up, these different leadership opportunities had just fallen into my lap. As I was growing up, I was always encouraged to serve the community. So as a result, I volunteered for various nonprofits. When I entered the 9-to-5 world, I was already leading a team. And when I was in college, I was really encouraged to get involved with extracurricular activities. So student government, new student orientation. And then I took these skills and brought it to the workplace. So as I was leading a team, I took just different tips and tricks in really communication and teamwork, that team building. I was inspired by what I did over the years. I went back to school for my executive master's degree in leadership. And then after graduating, I landed into a Fortune 500 company for their management development program where I got to learn and had the opportunity to pick up more best practices. And then throughout the years, just based on what I've learned and reflecting back, I had this opportunity to really step out on my own, make that leap, and provide just different ideas and frameworks and helping leaders really navigate this world of leadership and team building. So that's my story. It all came from a memory, but connecting all the dots, it made sense to where I am today.
That's amazing. And for a parent to be like, huh, what? You don't want to be like an astronaut or home builder or maybe drive a fire truck or something, but you wanted to lead a team. It is so precise what you're sharing with your mom because a leader can come in many forms and fashions. You can have a captain, a general in the army, maybe a lieutenant or a captain in the police department, a police chief, and you're building up, you're looking through that environment to say, hey, definitely, I want to be a leader. And it's valuable today because not many people understand what a leader is. For me, it comes from reading maybe something like Sun Tzu or watching Patton on TV and talk about somebody who was born to be a leader. And Patton's, hey, I lived several different lives and I was reborn into a leadership role each time. And so he's having a new life and he really feels that. And that's just so dynamic. And to actually drive that home and continue with it, the continuity throughout your life, to not just be a leader, you don't want to be just the guy on top, but you want to share that. And it's very important if you follow someone like Jocko Willenick. He was just wanted to be a leader. He's there. He's in the military presence, but he also leads not only from within, but he shares with people in business how to become leaders or to lead from their company, maybe if they lost that path. And that's very important in the culture. And this is what I really want to get to is that you're talking about company culture. And when we don't have leaders, people don't know their place. They don't know where they fit. If you don't have somebody to look up to, we've lost mentors. We've lost apprenticeship. We've taken that out of the world. Maybe you think about it in Shakespeare or something. But without mentorship, without leadership, and without a path to move forward, nobody's going to do anything. And then you just get a lazy culture. People just, it's not necessarily the workers to blame, but nobody up in management or anywhere within the company shows them how to lead and to what successes they can have. And so when you're talking about a healthy company culture, what does that look like from a leader's perspective?
Absolutely. And first off, Nicole, I really appreciate how you brought up the idea of shared leadership, because as we reflect on the evolution of leadership, the days of command and control, that's over. No longer can a manager just step over people to get what they want. It's all about that shared experience and helping other people become leaders. There's that saying that leaders don't create more followers, they create more leaders. And that all ties up to the idea that you brought up with leadership being a shared experience. And when it comes to an effective culture, I want to be clear that when it comes to building that, it's less about the pizza parties, it's less about the bring your dogs to work day, it's less about the movie nights or those brown bag lunches. Those are still valuable. I want to be clear that they do still bring value and benefits to your team. But when it comes to culture, it's really about that why, that mission, that vision, that purpose, that really desire for people to stay engaged and understand what they're striving for. And when it comes to building an effective company culture, it really is setting that foundation to letting people understand what they're working toward. And that's that big picture.
Well, that's great because when you talk about the pizza parties, and I remember I grew up in Silicon Valley when my parents, my mom and my stepfather, they worked in Hewlett Packard. We would have company picnics. They would have celebrations or pizza parties or stuff like that. My mom would bring some pizza home. And but they hit a goal. There was a goal that the team hit. And they would not only pay for people to get training, but my mom would get training, she'd finish the training, get a certificate, and then get a raise on top of it and a promotion because she's following the leadership. She wants to be part of the company culture where there's success. And when you say something like, hey, it's not the number one thing isn't the pizza party, I think a lot of it has come. And this is why I'm so out of corporate America, because for me, it was we were getting rewarded. And it was like, what goal did we hit? What are we celebrating? Hey, I'm all for pizza. I love it. Don't get me wrong. But what are we celebrating? If there's no milestone, if there's nothing that we hit, there's no celebration, albeit there's also places that don't celebrate your win. And that's very bad if you do not recognize that. And then your numbers go down and companies start to go bankrupt because they do not see the succession and the boss is always miserable. He's just there to be the fall guy. So when you're talking about this and you're driving this home to say, hey, if we don't reward without success, what does the success look like? Quite simply, it's because people start to feel so much better, so much stronger when they have a goal. They reach a goal, and coaches talk about this all the time. You've got to hit your goal and you want to get your money and you want to have a high ticket sale. But as a CEO, when you're looking at that in leadership and in the company culture, do you find that the rise in happy customers, the rise in company is getting more money, and then the workers are a lot happier and they're having a healthy competition? Do you see that go up altogether?
Yes, that's right. And I like how, Nicole, I like how you brought up the idea of tying it to performance. Because, for example, if we're giving pizza to people just for the sake of giving pizza, yes, that's nice. We do want to feed our employees. But it's a lot more meaningful when they're getting that pizza because they had accomplished something meaningful. When we provide rewards and bonuses to greater performance, we're rewarding better behavior. And when we reward better behavior, that sets a loop for continuous improvement. And when it comes to, as you mentioned, just seeing all of these come together, yes, when you really get employees engaged, that'll increase customer satisfaction. And of course, when you increase customer satisfaction, employees will continue to be engaged because they see the results of their efforts and it's being rewarded in that way.
I like that because you're setting goals, you're looking ahead. What's your next 5 moves? And Patrick Bet-David talks about this all the time on his show. I love his books and his relatability in the company culture where he's like, hey, some people will not always succeed, but those that want to succeed and that are hungry will drive more and drive further. And your company sees that because when you have events, you're like, yeah, I deserve this event. Or go to Las Vegas. I used to work in the casinos in security, and you see these events for companies and they're like, these are our employees. We want to thank them. We're going to bring them here, but we're going to get them so gung-ho that they do the training right before a big launch or a big project or maybe a big sale. You don't necessarily do it at Christmas time. You want to do it, maybe you're hitting a quarterly goal and you want some reward. And not everybody should be rewarded the same, because then why put in all that work? Then only one person's working hard. But the team dynamic to me is incredible, especially if you unpack it, where even just militaristically, where you're looking at there is a leadership platform that where you can hit and where people are. You got captain, general, and you're looking at that. We used to do that in business. And this way, you used to get to know the person above you. You used to always say, oh, that's the captain, or hey, that's the lieutenant. Good morning. Whatever you were doing, whatever joke you were telling or how silly you were being, or you would always, even if you were doing a great job and you just always you sat up straight and you go, oh, that's the chief. He's coming in right now. And everybody's, we're all present. We're all standing up straight. There's something that you celebrate with that. and you celebrate yourself because you're happy to be in the workplace. Do you find it's harder these days to retain employees if you're not have a successful leadership over maybe the last year or the last few years? I, I would think that people really you want to look at the successes of the business going in, that you're going to stay, because what's the relatability with people staying in at their job over a year versus wanting to leave tomorrow because the company culture isn't working. It's not flowing. It's not making them happy. There's nowhere for them to go.
Nicole, you brought up an excellent point with that engagement, because especially when it relates to effective leadership, when people really are inspired by their boss or manager, they do remain engaged. There's this, we know from research that people don't leave because of their job, they leave because of their manager. So when that manager really is in that, using their platform to really motivate and inspire to do great things, that's where we'll see more engagement. On the flip side, if a manager is just always upset, always angry, always disappointed, instilling this sense of fear, employees are going to feel that. They're not going to be engaged the same way as an employee who is inspired to do their work. The employee that's in a state of fear, they're going to complete their job, but it's not because they're feeling great about it. It's because they don't want to get terminated or removed. It's that sense of fear and concern that's really grasping them in their minds. On the flip side, if the manager is inspiring and does want to create a safe space to learn and grow, that's where employees will really want to put that discretionary effort. And what I mean by that, with discretionary effort, it means that employees within their own will have that motivation, that self-control and self-motivation, where they'd want to do things on their own instead of that force and fear that controls them. On the flip side, they're really inspired to really get things done.
I like that, but sometimes I think you have to have a little bit of fear. Oh, I don't want to get caught doing something stupid, so I'm not going to do it.
Oh.
Because for me, I'm not a very good liar, so I'm like, oh yeah, I did that. So I never wanted to do something, and we used to you felt that at your job. You didn't want to try to steal things. You didn't want to take a box of pens. Maybe you took a company pen because it's great to pass around if you're talking to clients or family. It's branding, it's marketing, you're sharing that. But you're not in the closet taking reams of paper home, toilet paper. You watch these videos nowadays and people just are robbing. They're just totally embezzling and filming it, that the company just, yeah, it's okay. If you love someone, if someone cares enough about you that there's just a small % of fear that you could lose your job, but enough love there, in a sense, that somebody's strong enough to support you and bring you up, you're not going to do that. You're not going to be talking nasty about your company. You're not going to be it's beer 30 and you're in happy hour and a couple of you went have a few drinks after work. There's a little steam you're going to let off. That's okay. But just the nastiness that comes in the tacky, toxic company culture that you're just really writhing in, and you don't want to go to work. You don't want to drive to work. You don't want to be at work. You don't want to see these people. And nobody sees how bad the company culture has changed. When you come in somewhere and you're coming in to a company and you're helping them improve their culture, are there warning signs? Is there an assessment you do when you come in there and go, yeah, we're going to have to fix this main area so the rest of it can start to flow nicely? What does that look like when you come in?
Absolutely. So for me, I use a variety of assessment behavioral elements, which really gives us an understanding of what drives people's behavior in making their decisions. I also use the 5 behaviors as a framework, where building that sense of trust to get results. And also I use the human synergistic suite, which looks at different areas that are just different elements in the foundation of building a culture. And then based on those results, I'll look at where the ideas for improvements are, and then make those recommendations to the leaders to see where they can make a higher impact in moving forward. So it's really using these different results from these assessments to see where they can find ways to improve. And after I take those results, I also provide leadership training and team building activities to really bring that sense of people working together and reinforcing that value. And then just taking those together, it really provides this sense of community and belonging. Because when it comes to building an effective culture, it is that sense of togetherness that really drives engagement. Because on the flip side, if people are feeling isolated, if there's this feeling of silos, people will start to disengage. There's this sense that they're feeling the sense of isolation where it's everyone's on their own. On the flip side, if you do promote teamwork as a sense of collaboration and cooperation, working together, that's where people will come together and find ways to really connect and work together.
I like that when you're talking about teamwork. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm always pretty honest when I talk about stuff. When people are like, for a team, we're all together in this circle clapping about absolutely nothing. So you feel like a seal. You're just like, what are we doing here? I think when you have a good leader and that leader is able to delegate to a company's or to their team's strengths, the lower half of that, the subordinates will see the strengths and want to rise up to that. But if there's always that person, sometimes people are really good, and I haven't seen this in years. Every once in a while, come by a few people that are really able to get a group together and that will really, honestly, truly rally behind them. And that's what I like about talking to you is it's not fake. It's not the Vaseline smile where they're like, yeah, everybody's happy. When you talk about the team that's out there, what's the difference in the company when you're talking about a team and you're bringing this into a company and you're coming in here and they're looking at that culture and it's almost more toxic. Their sense of betterment and the kind of virtue of how wonderful we are, and you can see it. And it's like you have to be really blind to not see that your team is just, we're not really supporting you, golf clap. We're not really there with you. We're not really behind with you, but somebody's coming in here. It's, ugh, you could just see it in people's faces. How do you combat that and weed through it where you're like, hello, nobody's happy about this? How do you have that conversation with a business?
Absolutely. And Nicole, I like how you brought up the idea of a team. What if they think it's this get in a circle? What if they think it's just applause? This idea of kumbaya, high fives, hugs. What if it's this idea where they get in a circle and play the drums? When it comes to an effective team, those are great team building activities, but that's not essentially teamwork in the sense of a real team. When it comes to building that sense of teamwork, it's really getting that buy-in from team members, showing them that, again, high fives, hugs, drum circles, they're great. But when it comes to building an effective team, we want to build a sense of collaboration that brings results. We want to look at our various goals. What does the organization stand for? What does the team stand for? What can we do to really improve the processes? Again, we can give each other high fives as a team building activity, but a real team building activity is understanding the projects and tasks that we're working on and how we can improve the different processes to really make life easier for everyone. And that's where a real sense of teamwork comes into play.
Yeah, I like that because it's almost like you need a drill sergeant. Hey, let's go. You need somebody there. It takes a certain person to get you. Like when I went through the academy in Monterey, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. We're seal crawling. So we're on our chests, crawling in the wet sand in Monterey. It's raining into the ocean. The Pacific Ocean is not warm, not at all. Boots and all into the water. We just got to do it. It takes a certain person to get really gung ho. You're going to do this, but you trust and know that you will follow that person to the ends of the earth because they have done that themselves, or they drive you so much that you're going to be a better person. I rappelled off a 30-foot building No way I would have done that with anybody else. It had to be a certain person because I had never done any of this stuff before. And when you can trust in your team, you will do those building exercises. And some of these exercises are great when people go sometimes on a retreat or something and they support one another. But it's not always going to happen. And you just want to bring somebody in, not to crush somebody's world, but you have to look at it from the honesty of there's certain little tasks in the last 20 plus years that either hiring departments or HR departments that have brought in that are just so silly. You feel like that you're in a kid's circle in kindergarten, and it's so degrading to somebody that's, hey, I've been in this business for years. I've got experience. I should be the first person that somebody hires or the first person that one of the few top 3 people that you're looking at for opinions or groupthink or a mastermind or a workshop to get these ideas flowing. And then you bring everybody else in because everybody else is going to go, okay, if we're here, then we've got these other great supportive ideas, or maybe there's something a little bit different that we should do. It's almost you go in there and somebody suggests something just really ridiculous. And then some manager will go, yeah, that's a great idea. And you're just like, why is nobody saying this is bad? I've gotten punished for stuff like that before. And so I understand, I feel for the people with experience, knowledge, and education that come into a place. And that just is a bad culture because it's almost like the emperor has no clothes on. And everybody's, yeah, this is great. This is great. And you're just like, let me get out of here. This is just a bad nightmare. So and at those times when we're looking at something like that, are these times, do you come in before like a business buyout? I've seen a few companies that have sank in and nobody's happy. Nobody knows. It's the crazy people running the asylum at this point. Nobody knows what's going on. The company's bleeding itself dry. Nobody wants to stay. Turnover is high. They're paying $10,000 to $15,000 in 30 days to train someone. Are you at a time when they coming in to look at a buyout and try to save them?
So, Nicole, you brought up an excellent point. And do you know what the 6 most dangerous words are in company culture?
No. What?
We've always done it that way.
Oh, yes, I do know that.
And when we step into an organization and see that they're using processes and policies and really structures that are keeping them in the past, that's when they'll see trouble, because in today's world, everything is moving at a fast pace. And if organizations are not adopting some of the latest technology, if they're not adopting some of the latest software, they could get left behind, because when they look at the competitors using some of the latest and greatest, that puts them a step ahead. On the other hand, when an organization or company sticks to their old ways, that's really going to cause trouble, because as Professor Carol Dweck brought up in her research, this idea of a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. The fixed mindset, this is the mindset where we think that there's just no sense of improvement. We are what we are because of what we are. On the flip side, if we embrace a growth mindset, there's this idea that we can change, we can adapt, we can move forward. There's opportunity for growth, there's opportunity for development. And when we adopt that mindset, especially within an organization, that's where we'll open the doors to more possibilities, because now we see more options. We see what's available. We see what's possible. And when organizations buy into that vision, there's a lot more that can happen in growth and development for that organization.
And you're looking at that positive side, and I like where you're going because you can really shift a business, and you want to keep a business. You want to have growth. You want to have change. You want to be able to keep up with the competition. You're not like, what was that film Kodak from years ago? They didn't move into the digital age. They didn't want even a small department to get into to digital at all, because they were like, hey, we're a film company. This is what we've done for years. Just like you were saying, we've always done it this way. You got to have some type of change, even on small. But when you're talking about change, you're not talking about change for the sake of change. I think in the last 20 years, people are just tired of, you wake up, something's uploaded, something's downloading, Zoom's doing something different, and then you got to stop and reboot your computer, and then you've got to stop and watch video or figure out how this whole thing, and then it's like it's just unnecessary. Are you talking about successful changes when you're training down the realms of people?
That's right. So when we're promoting that change, it's tying up to the mission and the values of the organization. Again, we don't want to promote change for the sake of change. That's easy. I can order a new set of pens and a new set of binders for the office tomorrow. That's easy, but that doesn't produce a significant change in what the organization stands for. But if leaders take the time to share what they're working toward and really cascade that message down to the rest of the organization and look for ways to work together in bringing about that positive change, that's what we mean by real change. Again, we don't want to promote change for the sake of change. It doesn't make a marked difference in how the organization functions. But when you look at the big picture, like Simon Sinek, many leaders really do point to his message of why, because that does make a big difference in understanding our purpose and what we stand for.
And when you're talking about that, this way people understand their purpose. They understand the true mission as a team and what needs to be accomplished. And each department needs to find a little bit of growth, and it's going to be a little bit different. It's not every department's not going to take in or absorb the same thing. They don't necessarily need to either, because you need that kind of labor team is going to find something totally different. When I was in law enforcement and I worked in the police department, I was coming in more or less as an intern coming out of the academy. You should get in there and see what it looks like. I was a volunteer for them to get into what's the daily grind look like? What does this look like as I'm finishing my degree? And you get to get a little bit of a peek inside of the working minds of a business. I think it's important for people to apprentice and be in there. But you also start to know that where in the department am I going to find the most value? But then again, at this time with the change, City Hall, because we were in the same building, they were trying to teach us something different. And you have two different people. Your City Hall, you work in an office. We're outside in the nitty-gritty of things, sweating a little bit more. We should have some connection, but you're not going to have the same thoughts. You're probably not even going to laugh about the same joke. So when you're looking at company culture and you're looking through the departments, how do you because it's so different, how do you keep that large perspective?
Nicole, I like how you brought up that idea, because I have worked with an organization where they did have field operatives and they did have in-office staff, and they would just point fingers at each other for just having a different vision. But really, it's looking at that bigger picture. Not everyone is going to agree on the specific steps, the specific process. But if we can find different ways to really get to that final picture, that's when we're really going to get results. And it's really having those conversations. Again, people are going to still want to do things a certain way. If it does bring progress, then there's validity to it. On the flip side, if they're doing just something random that's not getting results, that's where you can start to eliminate waste. But on the other hand, when we can look at what works for both sides, that's where we'll see that opportunity for collaboration and then getting to that final result.
I think that's good that you're bringing that out. When we're looking at different departments or different teams that have to work in unison for the larger part of the full company mission, and you can take these little things away that just don't help. You're doing it for the sake of just doing it. It's like change for the sake of change. But the other thing is honoring and disclosing. I always find that the best way to dispel a rumor is disclosing the truth. What do you really know? Because otherwise everything's a conspiracy and everybody's toxic, and it is. You're blaming the other shift or you're blaming the other department. When you disclose, hey, Mary is an area supervisor. Mary spends 12 to 16 hours a day in a car. Mary's going to talk one-to-one with customers. Mary's going to have a different way that she reports back to the office, and half the week she's not going to be in the office because she's out traveling. Adversely, Bob in the cubicle is going to have a different path and different incentives and a different way to do his work because Bob is more on the computer. Maybe he does more tech, or maybe he does more data and he's doing research. So he's going to have something different. And if you say that as a company, you say, hey, we have to look at these two people, not just uniquely individual, but they are uniquely within the department. And if you make everybody the same, the performance, you cannot rate the performance. And that's not fair to a manager because they're like, wait, how do I rate this person or against this person? If there's different ways we have to look at things and everybody's trying to bunch them in one big, like aluminum foil ball. And you really want to look at, hey, let's unravel this a little bit and look at that. Have you seen a change where management is saying, hey, we need to it would have to come from upper scale management, but looking at the departments differently instead of looking at them just as everybody's got to bring in something to the table all the time?
That's right. I like how you brought up the idea of different departments having different needs, because if you have one goal for everyone, that's not going to really play to their strengths. So, for example, if we say to an entire company, I want, as a manager, if we're saying, okay, we want everyone to make 10 sales calls every day, everyone in the organization, there are departments that don't do sales calls. They're not going to adapt very well to that. On the other hand, the organization or the departments that do well with sales calls, the sales and marketing office or department, they're going to exceed those goals and they're going to look very good compared to the other departments who aren't supposedly pulling their weight, but in reality, it's not what they do. Again, it creates the sense of unfairness. On the other hand, when we look at the different departments, what they do and confine tasks, processes, and structures to really improve their specific work, that's where we're really playing to their strengths. Instead of that scenario where we're asking everyone to make sales calls, that's not what everyone was made for. Everyone was hired for a specific role. And when we really understand that everyone's hired in a specific role and find ways to improve those roles and the foundations to help them succeed, that's where people will find it easier to work together because they can adapt to what's working well for them.
100%. They can adapt to, hey, this is where the department is. We can adapt to our roles and can't say that. It's validated, a little tongue-tied on that one today, but you can validate the difference within the departments, but the sameness of all completing one larger goal as a company and the customer service is a lot easier when you're not trying to do 12 different things. And the crash 2007, 2020, you had to take on one or two other roles, but you don't tell somebody that does data research to cold call. If I do data research, I'm a tech person. I don't know, hey, the phone call, because I had to tell my boss, I'm like, look, the phone call is going to be like this. Hey, dude, yeah, you want to buy this? Okay, no? All right, great, thanks, click. Why not? I don't have that charisma or sales charm, and it takes a while to understand your sales techniques. So if you just throw somebody out there and you're just like, hey, start selling stuff, what do I say? How do you want me? Then they give you a script, but you don't know how to read the script. You don't know the vocal tone you should have. They're like, just imagine that you're happy. And then that goes back to the, oh my gosh. So it's the realistic of what's changed. So in these last few years, especially if your company's starting to lose money or they're going to a buyout, there are ways to give them more tasks that you can delegate. And that again comes back from the leader. But when people aren't understanding this, or when you're trying to build the company culture, you bring in, I would imagine you're going to bring in some training and say, hey, we need to bring up and foster a good culture here. How do you go about that? Because not everybody's going to be up for training.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to just this idea of training, people think this team building is it applauding together, getting in a circle, playing the drums, high fives and hugs? when it comes to this leadership training, it's really showing that there are benefits and outcomes to embracing this sense of teamwork and collaboration. And what I do with my training specifically, a lot of them are inquiry based, a lot of them are reflective. And what I mean by that is when I get leaders in a room and their team members, it's really about thinking what they're working on, how it's going, what current progress looks like, what's the big picture, and where they want to be. Because when you give people the opportunity to really reflect and be deliberate and intentional about how they're doing their work, it really opens up the space to see where they can improve. And then once they see that this training is really focused on making them better people, there's this greater sense of buy-in because, again, it's not about trust falls and jumping over people when it comes to team building. It's really this idea of how can we really work together to get more done together.
Oh, I like that because when you're doing that and you're bringing up the leaders and you're bringing them back to some retraining, some refocusing. Oh, okay. Now I start to remember why I'm here, why I was doing what I'm doing. Now I see the company's going to support me. So I'll come back to being a good leader instead of hiding in my office. So when people go through this training, what does the plan look like after fact? Because somebody's got to be the mentor afterwards. Somebody's got to step up. And there's always those people, yeah, I'm your best friend and I'm the new leader and I'm the new cheerleader. I'm the new that. And then 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 months down the road, there's no mentorship. So do you establish something that looks like, hey, let's check in after this time, maybe come in and check on what's going on? Or do you do recon, dress up like a ninja and go through the place and see how people truly react versus what they say they're doing?
I would love to dress up as a ninja and just get to the office and run around and have that puff of smoke and suddenly be gone and then come back another week. When it comes to really building this in, what I do with my trainings is really establishing real action steps to get the leaders to decide on what they want to do after that specific training. And then there is follow-up, whether it's a Zoom call, whether it's another meeting, really seeing how much progress they've made with that. Because it's one thing to do a training and then walk away from it, but it's another thing to go through a training, decide what you do want to do as far as specific action steps, what moves do you want to make in terms of making things happen, and then following up on the progress of what they said they were going to do.
So do you leave them with maybe an accountability buddy, not necessarily a yes man? Yes, sir. That's great. Everything's wonderful. Sure. Uh-huh. Yay. So when we're going to unpack that, do you suggest, hey, maybe there's a new accountability person. There's always that one buddy or that one person that you work well with, but there needs to be somebody outside the mean girl group to go, not so much. We haven't seen that much progress.
So for me, it's actually getting the team as a whole to really check in with each other. And then when they have meetings, when it comes to meetings, it's less about status reports. That's still important. As leaders and managers, we still want to make sure everyone's still on track with the work they're doing. But it's really intentional about how they're doing their work, where they're going, and really finding ways to see, okay, now that we're in this part of the process, we're not close to what we said we were as far as the milestones that we set. But why is that? Again, it's asking that question and giving everyone that opportunity and that safe space, building that psychological safety for all team members to speak up when something's not going right. It's very important to have accountability buddies, but when everyone is working on it together and being accountable for each other, that's where we'll see more of that motivation to really get to results together.
Absolutely. And then you can look ahead, just a few steps ahead, maybe 5 steps ahead, and then your larger plan. Because leaders are really good at long-term goals, but they're not always looking. There has to be somebody that looks at, not meticulous. You don't have to micromanage, but you want to look within an area or somebody that can see in front of them just a few inches. Are you seeing your hand in front of your face? That's right there. Are you noticing that? Because you're so busy way out here with a company, a merger, a buyout, and all this other stuff that goes on these days, the monopolies that they're forming that doesn't that they weren't supposed to do. So let's unpack it, because most of the people that I work with are either CEOs, CFOs that are exiting, and we have a seminar coming up, that are exiting kind of the corporate world and maybe either want to retire with something a little fun to do, a little maybe side hustle or something, or want to get out of the business and take their leadership skills to the entrepreneur world. And I would imagine if you can see, hey, where does this help someone? Because you're an entrepreneur, right?
Yes.
For you, when you're coming out this as a consultant, what kind of skills can be transferred to entrepreneurs and CEOs that are leaving the business? Because we want to reward them for being amazing people, strong leaders, super supportive, very successful, but we don't want them to lose that when they get into it. And some people just, it's sad. I went through a point of it as an solopreneur and went, I'm not getting the juice that I got from the team. I'm not getting the juice that I got from the leadership. Where do I find this? So where would somebody find that as an entrepreneur outside?
Absolutely. So when these executives are exiting, it's really continuing their leadership journey and focused on their leadership growth. And it all comes about to taking what they've learned as a leader in the past, using what's worked, understanding what hasn't worked, and then learning from those lessons to see how they can improve upon. Because once they join the entrepreneur world, in the beginning, yes, they may be a solopreneur, doing things on their own. But as they grow, as they scale, they're going to want to bring in more people, because solopreneurship becomes difficult as you're growing. And that idea of doing everything yourself is just going to put a bigger strain on you and lead to burnout. So you're going to consider bringing in more people. And when you do, that's where you get that opportunity to really take what you've learned and then really help people grow in their development and building that sense of teamwork again. Because when they were in the corporate world, they were surrounded by a lot of people and had that opportunity to work together. But adjusting from solopreneur to an entrepreneur with a team, it's really reflecting on what's worked in the past and bring it about into reality with your new team.
Well, I like that, because you want to still get that reward. You want to still get that high of success. But now you're patting yourself on the back, where other people were like, hey, great job. You get a reward. So in a sense, I guess you got to reward yourself and find that team. And if you're a good leader and you're good at delegating, you find the person that does the video, you find the person that does the marketing, you find a good network, maybe a chamber of commerce. Find somewhere where you can build that network to build up to your net worth. And that's why part of this is looking at it like, hey, you're going to leave. Let's establish this little cushion so you don't have a withdrawal of what happened. There's no more cool espresso machine. There's not going out to lunch. Who's paying the bill? You are now, right? Who's paying for their coffee? It's not on the company's dime anymore, or it's your company. So you have to start to put that money plan in place, the accountability in place, and maybe really start looking at who is going to be your team. And know that you have to have a team, because if you try doing it all yourself, like you mentioned, burnout, you're not going to succeed. You're not going to get past that 2 years. Even if you do a franchise, you've got to look at, I've got to establish a team. I've got to have these people here. And this is the money I need to make within the year to make sure that I am successful and put the money back in. Otherwise, it's an endless cycle if you don't ever get to pay yourself out. What would you say? Any last words here to people that, because our audience is more entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, what would you say, any last words for the audience to say when they're building and they want to have that leadership success?
Yes. This reminds me of a quote from John Maxwell. And in one of his books, he says that when you help other people grow and develop, it brings a great sense of joy and satisfaction. And that's what I would encourage when it comes to the world of entrepreneurship. When you build a team or are thinking about building a team, or with other people that you're working with, help them grow and develop. That's a big part of leadership. And when you really promote that, you'll feel a great sense of joy and satisfaction.
Oh, yes, that's great. You will feel that satisfaction, and sometimes you have to find that satisfaction within, or maybe in other places, maybe a team or a racquetball or run. You run.
Too.
So I think so. Do you have a team that you run with, or is it a solo thing that
So
you
for
do?
me, it was the early days that gave me a lot more encouragement and motivation, because when you have people by your side, it's easier, especially in the early stages, because when you're starting something on your own, finding that motivation may be difficult, but when you have other people that can support you in your journey, that's where you get a great start.
And just think, guys, leadership's not just the corporation structure. It can be your business, and it should be outside as well. So you can have a full fulfillment and you can lead within so you don't go without. And that will reflect especially your entrepreneur journey, and find that respect from those people that you can develop with a team and connections, and grow your net worth and your network as well, so you are successful. So thank you for joining the Pain Point podcast today. We had a great conversation here, and I will have all your links down below. Is there anywhere else that people need to go to find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. Love to have conversations about leadership, personal growth, professional growth. Feel free to reach out. Just love to have those conversations.
Awesome. Yeah, LinkedIn is a great place to have conversations with entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and business people of like minds, and maybe somebody that thinks a little bit differently from you in your community. And so you can build it that way too. So it's a good place to reach out. So thank you so much for being here on another episode of the Pain Point Podcast.
Thank you, Nicole.
The real world, a global community where like-minded individuals work toward achieving their personal goals. Every member receives advanced training and mentoring from our team of experienced industry specialists. Develop essential business skills with the help of our coaches through our online comprehensive education system. Join now. Real Prosperity Financial Freedom Formula. Discover how to become financially free so you don't have to depend on your business, a job, the government, a partner, or anyone else for money. Scan code for the Financial Freedom Formula. 4BK Forbidden Knowledge Shop. Forbidden Knowledge Tours and Workshops. Embark on a journey of discovery with Forbidden Knowledge Tours and Workshops, where history, science, and spirituality merge to unlock the secrets of the universe. Our immersive experiences take you beyond the mainstream narrative, exploring ancient civilizations, consciousness expansion, biohacking, UFO phenomena, and the art of manifestation. Esoteric Store, featuring new esoteric and biohack items. It's a movement, a portal to ancient wisdom, higher vibrations, and deep truths. Awakening minds and expanding consciousness. Scan code to shop now. AI Genius Club. Revolutionary suite of 24 AI-powered apps is designed to automate, optimize, and elevate your success. Whether you're crafting visuals, creating engaging funnels, or generating personalized content, our platform empowers you to excel with ease and precision. Scan code to create magic. Event Raptor, the #1 solution for automating your sales. Attract, nurture, and convert with your ultimate coaching client attraction system. Everything you need to grow your audience, your authority and influence, your sales. Scan to start your automation.